Hello, welcome back to Mark's Garden UK. In this video I'm going to demonstrate how I would go about moving a large shrub, and in my case it's going to be these two box plants here. There's one there and one just in front of the camera there, and they're a feature of this parterre at the front of my cottage. But they fail to thrive here, and I think there's a number of reasons for that. I'm not going to go into the reasons why I'm moving them in this video, but I'm going to move them and I'm going to replace them with these two lovely Trachycarpus fortunei plants. So in this video I'm going to demonstrate how I would do it, and I'm going to share with you several common sense tips which I would always apply if I was moving that plant. And the first tip is, number one, get the hole ready first. The hole where that's going, get it prepared in advance so that the plant is not sat around in the open air waiting for its new home. The other thing I would say is choose your day. Don't do this on a hot, sunny day. Choose a cool day where it's likely to rain. And also, the day before you move the plant, give it a really good watering so that it's already hydrated. Now, there's going to be some damage to the roots when I start digging those plants up. So another thing I will be doing to these plants is giving them a bit of a prune when they're in situ in their new home. And the benefit of doing that is it will redress the balance between the amount of plant above the ground and the amount of rootstock below the ground, because that rootstock has got to provide for that plant, and it will take some time to recover and put new roots into the earth. So whilst it's doing that, I want to reduce the amount of transpiration above the ground. Transpiration is the leaves leaving water. So if I cut a lot of leaves off, it'll help the roots and it'll help the plant. So let's go and have a look at the new hole where these two box plants are going. Now, a little tip for you here is, when you start digging your hole, put a board down, and that is where I will put the spoil out of this hole, and it'll make it a lot easier to backfill when the shrub is in its situ, in its place. So I'm using my long handle Irish spade here. I think this is a really good spade for digging holes with. It's got a pointy end there, which means that all the pressure from your foot goes to that point and helps it to cut into the earth. I'm putting the turf to one side here because I'm planting these into what was a bit of lawn. So I'll put the turf to one side, and then I'll make a separate pile with the soil, and I'm going to dig a hole slightly larger than the root ball that I anticipate will be underneath those plants. And as I say, I will then go and dig them up. I've not even started digging them up yet. So there's a nice hole for the plant to go into. I'm just going to add a little bit of enrichment in the form of some compost. Not too much, because it's going in the ground and there's plenty of enrichment and food in the soil around it. If it was in a pot, I might add some slow release or some wood, fish and bone. And if you want to, you can do, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to add a little bit of compost. The theory being is, if I give it too much food in the hole, it'll prevent it from looking for food with its roots. So I'll just give it a little bit to give it a bit of a start, and then I'll leave it to its own devices and it can go and find its own food in the area. Next, I'm going to give that a good water. A really good soak, so that the ground around where it's going is nice and wet. Now, as you can see, I've put the turf to one side. I've got my lovely topsoil there, and I've used my long handle spade. You can get them on my in my Amazon shop. I'll put the link below this video. So let's now go and dig up the plant that's going in this hole. Now, before I planted these box plants in this parterre, I had made an attempt to topiarise them. I wanted like a cylinder with a ball on top and a little shape on the top, and it was getting there, and I'll probably continue with that. You can see the video on my channel when I tried to topiarise it. Now, when I planted them, I put these flagstones around the bottom, and they're quite a nice feature because they've got a shape to them, which means there's a circle in the middle. But I'm wondering whether that is one of the reasons why they've failed to thrive. Maybe that's prevented water from getting down to the roots. We'll see the roots in a minute and we'll see whether they're dry or not, but if I hypothesize, that's a potential cause. So let's put those to one side. There's 4 in a set. I found them in the garden when I moved in. So here we go. Oh, look there, little snails. In some parts of the UK, they eat these. They call them wallfish. Fishing villages on the south coast, when they went out to sea and didn't have a good enough catch, they would go and look in the stone walls and pull these snails off. That's why they call them wallfish. And I don't ever kill those, I leave them because that's food for a thrush. So that can go over there and find a new home, and so can that one. Wallfish. Now the next part of this process is going to be me clearing this gravel away, because I'd like to keep the gravel. So I'll just spend a few moments now gathering it up and bringing it to one side so that it doesn't get too contaminated with the topsoil that's underneath the weed fabric that's around this box plant. So that's the majority of the gravel cleared. The next thing I'm going to do is peel back the weed fabric which I put in. It's been brilliant stuff, and again I'll put the product link on my channel, and you can buy it if you wish. But it's great because it, as the name suggests, it stops the weeds coming through and makes this part of the garden really low maintenance. So I'll just cut through that with these scissors now. There's a hack for this, and I'm not going to do it today, but a great way of cutting this is with a soldering iron, because when you cut through it with a soldering iron, it also seals it. It's a bit like surgeons using those laser heat scalpels. Anyway, back we go. Again, I'll put the link to that video about using a soldering iron to cut this, and I'm just going to fold it there out of the way so I've got get access to the soil beneath. So I've removed the gravel, I've cut diagonal corners into the weed fabric, and I've peeled it back and I've rolled it underneath itself. So now I've got a nice patch of bare earth, and I'm just going to examine that earth, and actually it's quite damp. There's nothing dry about it. One of my neighbours is walking past, I'm just going to say hello. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that soil whatsoever. It's lovely and damp. If anything, a little bit compacted, but there's lots of roots. I can see lots of roots here under the plant, but I can't tell whether they're from that plant or from this hedge. Right, the next thing is to try and get under it with this spade. So I'm going to try and get a nice ball shape, and I am going to cut through some roots with this spade, but I'm going to sacrifice those, and actually cutting through them I think will help stimulate new growth. So let's go to it. Having gone all round it with my spade and cut a ring round it effectively, and now I'm going to use the long handle as a lever to try and kind of dislodge it bit by bit. So I shall go round now once again, put the spade in and wriggle it until eventually it gives up the ghost and comes out. And so now, eventually, with a bit of brute force and ignorance, quite a lot of damage to these roots. It's given up and it's come out of the hole. It was always going to come out of the hole. Now, am I worried about the damage to the roots? No, I'm not. When you look at the ones that you buy in garden centres and on market stalls, they've got much smaller rootstock than this one has got, and they still survive, and this one will survive. In fact, I'll probably take a little bit more roots off that when I put it in the new hole. I'm going to remove a few more roots. There's a saying, isn't there, when you move a plant, year 1 they sleep, year 2 they creep, and year 3 they leap. So maybe next year that would have leapt. Anyway, we'll never know. It's going in this hole here. Let's offer it up and see how it looks. That's going to be perfect, isn't it? So I'm just going to get my spade and just do a little bit of pruning on them roots, and then we'll backfill it. Now you might think I'm a bit of a plant bully, but don't worry. The damage to the roots won't do it any harm. They'll grow back, and it might do it some good because we're going into the autumn now, so the ground will stay warm and the top will stop growing. So it'll carry on putting new roots down, and it won't need to feed the top half of the plant. I'm going to prune it in a minute. I've got some electric handheld pruning shears, topiary shears, so you'll see that in a minute. But the first thing I'm going to do is backfill it. Now I want it to stand upright, so I can't see whether it's upright from here. So I'll get a little bit of soil in the hole to stabilise it, and then I'll do a series of looks from a distance, so you can see better whether something's vertical. If you look at it from a little bit further away, it doesn't look too bad. We'll get some soil in and we'll fiddle around with it. So in it goes, and we'll just give it a bit of a wriggle to settle that soil in, push it in with my hand, and then, as I say, I'll step away and have a look from a distance. And now I'm firming it in underneath. Let's get the soil back in the hole. In a moment, I'm going to prune this with my shears, as I say, to redress the balance between the top and the bottom underground. But I want to point out that what I'm actually doing is firming it down and leaving a donut-shaped indentation around the bottom. And that is so that when I water it, the water will go into that donut-shaped indentation and go down to the roots instead of running off. And it will need watering quite a lot for its first 18 months until it gets re-established. This poor plant has really gone through the mill, so let's get some water on it. Now whilst I've been doing that, I've been having a look at this plant just to check on its health, and there's 2 conditions that can affect box plants. Well, there's probably more than 2, but I know of 2 that are quite serious. One is called box blight and the other is box tree caterpillar, and I can tell you that this has neither. I did a video on box blight. I'll put a link to it at the end of this one. And when I look down into the centre there's quite a lot of new growth in there. I noticed that the leaves are variegated. Perhaps it's been getting too much light, but it's reasonably healthy, or it was until I decided to move it. No doubt it will go into the doldrums and sulk a bit again for another year, but this is its permanent position now. I'm going to take a bit of growth off it, and that will probably make it look better already. Again, I was given these. There's a video on them on my channel. Oh, there you go. I mean, I think that looks better already. As I say, we'll probably sulk a little bit. I'll probably give it a bit of a top dress now with some compost, which will just leach down. Now I have cleared away the box trimmings. It's important you do that with box, just in case there's any disease. Now I'm going to make this a bit of a low maintenance section, so I'm going to put a square of bricks around this and backfill it with gravel, because I want to be able to run around the edge with my mower. I've got another one to move. I probably won't film it because I'm losing the light now, but I hope you found that useful. Do have a look at these products on my channel. I do get paid a commission and I appreciate your support, and I'll see you soon for some more shrub moving adventures. Bye for now.